What's up, everyone? This is Blake and Peter, and welcome back to the Ridgeline Leadership Podcast, the podcast that empowers aspiring leaders to identify, connect to, and advance on the path of leadership.
Here on the 66th episode, we want to talk about holding space. You've probably heard that term before, so you're probably pretty familiar with its meaning. But we really want to explore how holding space for your team specifically can transform them and the organization. We'll give you some simple, actionable steps that you can begin practicing as early as today with your teams. But first, Blake, why don't we jump in? Why don't you take it from here and we can dig into what it means to hold space?
Yeah. So, we're always dealing with monsters, mountains, storms. Like, these things are constantly in our life. And it's no easy task to take this stuff on, especially when most people have not had any help in that whole process, except for the person in their own head, which is not always a great thing. Like, that person sounds pretty legit and sounds super intelligent until something happens and you're like, I should not have listened to that person at all.
Yeah.
Because what happens is when we always are listening to that person in our own head, we get stuck in a cycle of not being able to transform. Okay. So when things come up in our lives, we end up coming up with coping mechanisms. So these are our default ways of quickly going to what do I do in this scenario? Throughout your life, you've come up with some of those. We all have. Okay. So it's no shame to that. That's helping you get through life, basically. But I really believe that also causes us to get stuck in a cycle of not transforming at times. Okay. And in fact, I believe that most people are just an inch away from transformation. Okay. Just to that next best version of themselves. But that last little bit of tension is 100% the hardest to overcome. Like, when you do overcome, though, when you can overcome that one little inch, I'm telling you, life just gets amazing. Okay. And as leaders, we get the honor, if we choose, to be a part of this whole process for other people. Okay. And it's not an easy place. It's not an easy place to be. It's actually really can get frustrating and overwhelming and challenging, but it's a place that we have to get to if we're going to lead others, if we're going to help others to overcome and get out of their own comfort zone and go to that next level. So it's a place that we have to, without judgment, help others see another way.
Hmm.
It's getting them to a place where they can overcome that which is holding them back. So, the idea of holding space, okay, that's what we're here today to talk about. Even the name of this, the 5 ways to hold space for your team. We want to just talk about some easy ways. Oh, let me rewind that. Not easy ways,
Right.
but ways, 5 ways that if you stand in these places and help people, hold space for people to transform, you're going to see amazing changes, great outcomes. It's unreal. Okay. But it's helping them get from a place where they can overcome that which is holding them back. So, what is holding space? For space is just providing them a safe and supportive environment where they can explore and process their feelings, emotions, and thoughts without fear and judgment of criticism. Okay. That's big right there, without fear, judgment, and criticism. It means being present and attentive, offering support without trying to fix their problems, leader. You listening there? That's not an easy one. Okay. And then ultimately, and this is the one that everyone's going to be like, screw this, done with this podcast. Okay. But it's respecting their decision. Okay. Not an easy thing, but it's the real deal. And when we can be great leaders and hold space for our team, watch out because shit gets real.
Yeah, and there's the side as the leader too. It gives you the ability, if you're holding space as as the leader, you then are able to engage in what's unfolding, right? So we often put our plans together, and I'm not downplaying plans at all, but sometimes Plans are so good, right? And then we bring in others' perspectives, and that's really helpful. But holding that space allows you to engage in what is happening, um, to be able to guide your organization or your team without having this limited vision, right? A lot of times we have a single perspective, but when we open up and we allow others to have that space to bring in their thoughts, to bring in their perspectives without that judgment, that gives us collaboration. We then have the whole working together, to bring an idea forward. And sometimes that's going to change the direction or the perspective or whatever it is of where we're headed. And that's sometimes a really good thing,
Mhm.
because a lot of times they're going to see things that you may not have seen. um, there's a lot of benefits too that are tangible that you'll see. If you're holding space, you're going to be having a lot more resilience, because you'll have those different perspectives and the ability to understand as we move forward. Things are going to change, things are going to adjust. We don't have to stick by this rigid plan for whatever it is, whether it's a project or the organization as a whole, you name it. It's going to give you that resilience and allow you to feel more present there in the moment. It's going to give you the ability to connect the dots, um, because with that collaboration, you're going to be removing blind spots and gaining insight into possibilities that you may never seen before. You're shifting your perspective by allowing others to bring their perspectives in as well, and giving them that safe space without the judgment, without the criticism. You know, we've talked about this before, Blake. There's been times where we've had meetings with either the whole company or with a team, and we try very hard to allow people to have that space to bring up those ideas. And sometimes the first idea is not the greatest, right? It may sound a little hokey, and some of us go, well, that'll never work. But it's often the tripwire into an incredible opportunity for us to either transform the organization or adjust a little thing that we're doing and make that makes a big impact. A lot of times those initial thoughts may not be, they're not going to be the end result, but they give you that tripwire thought to that end result.
Yeah.
The other thing that's going to be a benefit too for your organization or your team is the feeling of inclusivity and unification, right? So now, as people bring their ideas in and they speak these things out loud, and they're not immediately shot down or shut up or told that it's dumb or stupid, now they feel like they're part of the team because they are. And you're actually building team camaraderie
Yeah.
as you do this, even if the idea is dumb. The rest of the team's going to jump in and say, hey, that's a good idea. What if we did it this way? Or what about this aspect that you may not have thought of? And now it becomes this collaboration again. And it just brings this unification that we really want to see in teams, and brings in multiple perspectives, as you look at problem solving. It's just a good way to do that.
Yeah. So, with all that being said, there was a lot of stuff talking about holding
What?
space but it is super important to realize and understand what a gift it is to hold space for others in their growth. Okay? So, what we're going to do is we're going to just jump in. We have 5 simple things. Again, simple in the fact that they're like 3 to 4 words, not simple in the fact that it's easy to do. So, as we get into this, just know, this is going to take time, and that's okay. Okay? But continue practicing these things for other people. So, the first one is listen without judgment. Oh,
Mhm.
that's fun. That's
Yeah.
enjoyable. Who doesn't love that one? Listen without judgment. Well, the people who love that one are the ones having space held for them. Okay. So, first thing I want to say is be attentive, be present. I think a lot of times we are in the midst of a conversation that could be a conversation to hold space for someone. Okay. So, holding space is not something where you're like, all right, everybody, time out for the day. We're going to take our holding space break. And, Tom, it's up. You're up. Go ahead. And we are going to be present. No, it's moments. There are moments you have with people to say, okay, you're up. Like you're talking, and if all I'm thinking about is what I'm going to say next, you're missing it. Okay. Because in this time, as you're digging in and being present for them, like you need to be doing more than just hearing the words they're saying. You need to see their body language. You need to know what's going on with them. Not everything that's going on with them, but there is a point where you're seeing, hey, there are a lot of feelings that are happening right now. And, normal, like, I'm a man kind of thinking would have been like, can't have that. Can't have those feelings at all. We need to
Yeah.
get those out. Well, no, we are okay with feelings. Okay. And call us the modern man. But for real, feelings are what, we've talked about the circumstances being neutral and that our thoughts about the circumstances are what create our feelings. Oh
Mhm.
gosh, our feelings are what actually produce our actions or encourage or cause us to do something, and our actions create our results. So feelings matter. Helping people understand and acknowledging their feelings and emotions where they're at. You don't need to say, well, you need to be here. No, 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 slow down. This is a time without judgment that they can just speak and that you're just hearing and you're just not having this judgmental environment around you to where they feel stifled and don't feel like you're a person that they can trust. You know what you need as a leader? Number one thing, trust. You need trust. Okay. If people don't trust you, you're just going to get positional leadership. Okay. So when you can be in a place where you hold space for someone else, they are going to be so thankful. And maybe they won't, but when they transform and grow, everyone is going to be better for it. So, number one, listen without judgment.
Yeah, I love that. Number two is use questions, not statements, to help them explore their thoughts. And this goes back to curiosity. We've talked about curiosity before, but you practice that. Practice being curious. A lot of times, the first thing somebody says does not mean that that's all that they've thought about it, right? There's a statement. You can make a statement and have tons and tons of thoughts behind it. But until you start asking questions as a leader to your team or to your colleague, saying, okay, well, tell me more about this part of what you just said, or tell me why you think a certain way. That's going to start really excavating the why behind what they said. And that gives them the opportunity to explain to you the reasoning behind what they're saying. So practice that curiosity. It also gives you the opportunity to bring in a little bit of a different perspective. And this is not a good bad thing. This is a very neutral thing. Perspectives, I believe, are neutral because they do bring in opportunities for growth, right? Not saying your perspective is right, but it could be something that separates their thinking from moving to a solution or being stuck.
Mm.
So gives that perspective. And then the other part of this too is it helps them recognize patterns in their behavior. So
Mhm.
as you ask questions and they come up with answers and they realize what they're thinking and how they're thinking, they're going to come to a realization sooner or later. And sometimes that's with help, right? But it's not you telling them this is the pattern I see. It's always more beneficial for that person that you're leading or your colleague for them to come to that realization of, oh, I see the pattern of how I've thought. This happens and I think this. This happens and I think this. And breaking those patterns are sometimes good. Sometimes it's good just to acknowledge them. But asking those questions will bring them to a place where they're thinking through everything and they're able to see, okay, here's my patterns of thought. And here's how that pattern of thought leads to my feelings about this situation, and so on and so forth. So, number two, make sure you use questions and not statements to help them explore their thoughts.
Yeah, that's good. That is good. Number three is a one that slaps. Okay. Offer your support, not solutions. We
Yeah.
love that one. Be support, not solution. Okay. We want to offer because we feel like what leaders are supposed to do is that we're supposed to be the ones who fix everything.
So
Problem
problem
with that
solving.
mentality is you have to fix everything. Is that really what you want to do? I don't believe it is, and I don't believe good leaders are the ones who fix the problems.
No.
That Archimedes quote, "With a lever long enough and a firm foundation, I can move the world." Love that. Okay, I wanna, break this down, and I've said this before, but I really think it's important. A coach, a leader in that whole scenario is not the lever, it's not the person,
Mhm.
it's the support. That's what a leader is we are the support. So this is not about the person, like becoming the person who always fixes their problems. When you do that, you're going to create a vicious cycle that it will be so hard to get out of. What this is about is helping the person become the person who fixes problems, who knows how to work through their own head, who knows how to say, a thought just came into my head. I wonder if, that's probably what I should be doing. Well, hold on, slow down. Like we get some 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts in a day. Do you think all of those are right?
No.
Think about the thoughts you've had before and the ones you're like, what the heck? Like that's weird. I'm not okay with that. But it's helping people get to a place where they can deal with their thoughts, where they can deal with the problems in front of them. And this is continual. This is not a one-time thing. This is a perpetual thing. So it's getting to a place where they can be the hero. They can be the one using the lever. They know how to use the lever. They're the person. All you're doing is you're offering them this support. Okay. To where they can become critical problem solvers in their own vein. Okay. So the questions, we talked about on the last one, the questions that we ask, be so good at asking great questions. Like become relentless, that is your passion and desire. The more you become a leader, the more you should become a great person at asking questions. And I was on a podcast recently with my buddy Dustin Pete, and he said that, and I just like immediately started writing that thing down. I was like, man, great leaders are great people at asking questions and being support, right? Using the questions to lead to those places. So like Pete was saying, they become the people who feel like they have ownership and responsibility in what they're doing. If you tell them what to do, they don't have the responsibility. Okay. Yep. And that's so important to our growth. So try not to be the person who just fixes all their problems. Like end of 3, be support, not solution. Be the support for them so that they can be the solution.
And number 4 is a hard one. This one is difficult, especially as leaders, because we want to see action, right? But we can't jump to that yet. Number 4 is give them time and space to process. You've just thrown a bunch of questions at them, right? You've challenged them in ways that they didn't think were possible, and all in good ways, right? And this is not a negative thing. They've realized maybe their pattern of thinking. You've offered them support, and now they have to process all that. So don't stand there, like a complete dick and just go, okay, what's the result? What's the answer? Give them the time and space to come to work through these and then come up with their decisions. It is healthy to give a time frame. Some things are time bound, right? Some things, you're you're working on a project and it has an end date. The end date has to stay the same, right? So you can't just sit in that space forever. But it's good to give that time bound and say, okay, take the next day, think about this, come back to me tomorrow, and let's talk about what the action is or what the result should be or what our next steps are moving forward, whatever that looks like. Yeah. But give them that time to process that. And then another really hard part of this is respect their decisions. That is a tough one because it may not be the way that you're going to do it, right? It may not be if you were the one taking on this task or this project or whatever it is, you may not go about it this way. But the end result is what we're looking at, right? Yeah. And if the end result is met, the means and methods are done through creativity of others. And that is so crucial to allow them to be creative in that area and allow them and respect their decisions of how they're going to move forward. Yeah. So number 4, give them space and time to process.
Yeah, dang, that's so good. Number 5, encourage them to take action. Kind of not so much piggybacking, but that whole respect their decisions thing is even when they're wrong and they're wrong hard. Yeah. You just go, all right, I got to respect their decision. Trying to get them to see your way doesn't work. This is why politics is so maddening to me, is because everyone is trying to convince the other person that, you should really see it my way here.
Yes.
They're set in something. So this is where it takes me to this place of encourage them to action. Why? Hey, you think that? Okay, sounds good. And don't be condescending. Don't be like, fine, if you think that, go for it. That's not giving them the permission to take action. Okay. maybe say, you know what? I think if that's what you think, like if you see it that way, like I don't see it that way, but I think what you should do here is do it. Go out there, do it. I'll be here to support. It's okay, fail. If it fails, it fails. We'll learn from it. And in fact, if I see it so wrong and that they're gonna fail, I want them to go experience it because that failure is such a better teacher than anything I can say. Okay. So that what I say will hit their ears and drop. What they experience will become a scar of remembrance. And so they will do that thing continually. So now, okay, we learned from that. Let them fit. No, it's okay to fail. Don't be an I told you so. Please, please. The worst thing you can do, or one of the best things you can do to lose trust is tell people I told you so. They're not going to want to, like share with you. They're not going to want to, like, they won't hold confidence with you. Don't do that. Okay. But this encouraging people to take action, the last part of it that I think about is just that anything that makes a monster or a decision or a mountain bigger, we say this all the time. The only thing that makes it bigger is time. That's it.
Yeah.
It's time. That's what makes fear bigger. That's what makes the decision seem bigger than you can handle. As soon as they make a decision, really be there and encourage them. Take action now. Here's why. Take action now. You're never going to be more primed for this moment. So take action. Okay. So number 5, last thing, encourage them to take action.
It's so good. I appreciate that, Blake. I think it's easy for us as leaders to go through these 5 things and want to skip number 4. That's the biggest one to skip, which is the giving them time and space, right? We want to jump right to number 5, wherever we are in the process. We want to jump to 5 of encouraging to action. It's important that this process is followed so that in order to, so that the time is taken appropriately. So make sure you listen without judgment. Make sure you're using questions and not statements. Offer your support, but do not be that solution. And then give them time to process it. Then and only then, when that has all happened, then encourage them to action, whether it be to failure or to success. They're going to learn either way. But you
with
give
empathy.
them the time and say that again.
With empathy. Have empathy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for joining us this time on the Ridgeline Leadership Podcast. See you guys next time.
Also, we'd like to thank our very own Luke Van Tress, aka Mr. Boxes, for our kick-ass original theme song.